Wow, it's great to be with you guys this morning. I need to talk to you a little bit about stepfamilies and stepfamily living. If there's one word I want you to understand about stepfamilies, it's the word complex. So we put together a little video to help you understand the journey of being a stepfamily. Whoops, let's go back one. There we go. Our story begins when this guy met this girl and fell madly in love. First came love, then came marriage. Then came Emily, Michael, and John in a baby carriage. They were living the dream until doubt and isolation tore love apart. One love and one home became two. In another part of the world, a loving marriage welcomed two beautiful children. Life and love for this couple went along as they hoped, and they too were living the dream until Mom became ill. Bad became worse, and worse ended the dream. Courageously, Dad strove to pick up the pieces and help his grieving children carry on. And together, they did. Until one day when this lady met this fellow. Wait, where have I heard that before? Oh well. One thing led to another, and a new dream for a new home was born. Yes, they knew there would be challenges merging homes, extended families, parenting strategies, finances, loss experiences, and holiday traditions, but they were confident that love would see them through. With hearts full of hope, they married. In the meantime, this guy, remember him? Announced that he and his girlfriend were getting married. They too had a dream for a new home. Okay, let's recap, shall we? What started out as two simple homes with 4 parents and 5 kids became 3 homes with 3 parents and 5 kids. And then became 2 homes with 2 parents, 2 step-parents, 5 children, 5 stepchildren, and the living memory of a deceased mother. And 5 sets of grandparents, dozens of cousins, uncles, and aunts, colliding family traditions, kids with divided loyalties, a home with 5 children on some days and only 2 the next, 2 bedtimes, differing parenting styles, conflict between homes, debt from the past, questions about whether this marriage will last, and 4 adults who quickly realize that their simple dream to recreate their dream home has instead created a multi-household family that is not simple at all, but complex. Love and hope has brought these families together, but how do they manage the complexity? And how do they make the dream reality? To find help, this home went to their local church. To their surprise, they found a ministry to blended families just like theirs. They weren't alone. With the help of FamilyLife Blended and their local church, this home found answers to the questions stepfamilies ask. For most, becoming a healthy stepfamily has its challenges. Becoming stepfamily smart is the first step toward helping this home and others like it live the dream. Live your dream. FamilyLife Blended, strengthening stepfamilies. See, the key line in that story is love and hope has brought these families together. That's why they get married. That's why they come together in the first place. They're trying to build a family. But how do they manage the complexity? That's what sneaks up on them. That's what makes family life or step-family life challenging. If I were to say it another way to you, I would say it this way. Couples get married because they've fallen in love with a person. That's how step-families are born. But step-families divorce because they don't know how to be a family. So with the few minutes I have, I just want to try to help you understand a little bit about that complexity, what you can do about it, and why your church really needs to begin to do step-family ministry. Already in the United States, there's 100 million people with a step relationship. Do the math, that's 1/3 of the U.S. population. 100 million of us in the U.S. have a step-parent, a step-sibling, or a step-child. That's a lot of people. And if we look at it from a family standpoint, parents raising kids, 40% of families in the U.S. are touched by the step-family experience in one form or another. Now ask yourself, isn't that compelling? How much are we doing for them? How is the church responding to this? We are about 40 years behind our culture in being able to minister to people, children, youth, and adults in step families. But let me just say something strange to you right now. Doing what I do, I am really not an advocate for more blended families. That may sound a little strange. I'm not an advocate for more blended families. What I am an advocate for is God's design for the family. One man, one woman for life. Why? Because that holds more promise for the well-being of the individuals within that home, for the process of parenting and handing faith one generation to the next. That's what I'm really an advocate for. That's what I'm really in favor for. Why? Because that family system holds more promise for everybody there. Let me put it to you this way. If you're driving a biological nuclear family, it looks like this. It's a Volvo, for crying out loud, all right? I mean, it's got this incredible crash rating system to it. You can get hit from the front, the side, the rear, the top. You're probably going to be okay, right? It's got 4 wheels. It's very stable. It's a solid machine. It's got a wonderful engine in it. It's going to be okay. Now, if you're driving a single-parent family, it looks a little bit like this. You see, you've lost a wheel. So this sucker doesn't corner nearly as well as that Volvo does at high speed. You understand me? It's susceptible to stress in ways that the Volvo is not. And by the way, you're still inside a cage, right? There's some protection there, but you're more susceptible to side impact and front impact. By the way, a lot of single parents are advertising creatively these days. So you see, they're missing a wheel and they want to replace it, right? But what they don't understand is when they find that extra wheel and they add it, they start driving this. This is what it's like to drive a step family. It's very susceptible to side and rear and front and top impact. You're not in a cage anymore. There's not this natural connected DNA thing that affords you a lot of ability to deal with stress. It's very susceptible to stress. As a matter of fact, if we add people to it, it really looks like this, okay? Now just think how much cooperation and balancing it takes to make this thing work. What if you're a teenager who's just hanging off the side and you really don't want to make the family work? Kids have an inordinate amount of power in step families. Think about it. I mean, they could tip the whole thing. Because everybody's trying to balance, and it takes everybody on board to make this thing go well. Now, step families can get there, but in the beginning, in the early years in particular, when they're trying to do all the work of becoming a family, just because there's a wedding doesn't mean you're a family. You have to figure out how to have relationships with one another. That's where all the hard work is, and that delicate balance is easily tipped over and swayed. But what if we could help that family be strong and create a situation so that if not in that generation, in the next generation, we were to restore this? Wouldn't that be cool? Wouldn't that be something worthy of us doing? I think so. Here's what I know about step families. Step families done poorly just add to the generational chaos of people's lives. It adds to chaos in this life. They've already been through a death or divorce and serial transitions of one form or another, financial decline, the impact of loss on somebody's life, child or adult, what have you. There's all kinds of those transitions. It takes children longer to transition to a parent's remarriage than it does to a parent's divorce. You see, for kids, it just heaps more and more stress, more and more challenge, and more loss. And if that's not managed well, it adds chaos to everyone's life. But here's the good news tonight. And that is this, that step families done well are redemptive. We at FamilyLife put on a summit on step family ministry we call Blended and Blessed. This November, we'll do our third one out in Irvine, California. Would love to have any of you join us. 2 years ago at our very first one in Dallas, Texas, a friend of mine, Dr. Francesca Adler-Bader from Auburn University, stood up and just blew us all away when she shared with us new research that she had just finished where they had followed children who grew up in strong, stable, healthy step families. And those kids, compared to other kids of divorce, have a better, more positive view of the institution of marriage, number one. Number two, they're more likely to get married than their counterparts. All the other people are just living together in their 20s these days. And number three, even more fascinating, is the fact that their marriages, when they get married, these are kids who grew up in strong, stable, healthy step families. Their marriages more reflect the high-quality step family marriage that they grew up in as compared to the divorce that led to the step family in the very first place. In other words, we can take back God's design for the family in one generation if that step family is a strong, stable, healthy family unit. That's redemption. Right? That's good news. That's good stuff. We need to hang on to that idea. All right, so how do we do this? Well, the first thing I want to say to you is everything you're already doing in your marriage and family ministry and children's ministry is helpful to people in step families. Now you just add 100% onto it, all right? Everything you're doing in your premarital counseling is helpful. They need to learn how to communicate and resolve conflict and manage their finances, but now you got to add 100% more because there's a whole new set of complexity to their life. So for example, let me tell you a story about Susie and John. They got married one day and they had 3 kids, Mary, Mike, and John Jr., but as life would have it, they divorced. Bob lived in another part of the universe, and he married Betty. They too had 2 kids, Ted and Carrie. They too got a divorce. Betty has since remarried Frank, and Bob has since remarried Susie. Now, Bob and Susie are coming to your church. Question number 1 is, do you even know the other players in this family story? Well, you may not have access to them, so how do you take that into consideration? By the way, when Susie married Bob, she knew she was getting a mother-in-law and a father-in-law, but what she didn't quite really fully understand is she was also getting an ex-wife-in-law, all right? And this woman, Betty, can pick up the phone and change Susie's life. She can change the emotional climate in her life. She can change her schedule and her calendar. She can change her financial situation. And Betty is not living in their home, but she has an impact on what's going on. Bob certainly has an ex-husband-in-law in John. By the way, how many adults are parenting the kids? 5. How many children do we have? 5. How many households are represented in this step-family system? 3. Parenting gets diluted because it's spread out between different homes, and so it's harder for Bob and Susie to raise their kids. We heard it a little while ago, right? A couple days ago, Ron started off our conference by saying kids take their cues spiritually in their faith formation from their parents. He's absolutely right about that. I'm asking, which parent are they taking their cues from? It's a lot of different people, and so children learn to chameleon themselves into all the viewpoints of all the adults that are involved in their lives, and they learn how to be creative with lots of worldviews, and then we have the audacity at church to tell them that there's one truth, when life has taught them to be postmodern thinkers. You see, there's some challenges there that we've got to think through in terms of children's ministry and youth ministry. Oh, by the way, we're not done. You see, Susie has primary custody of her 3 kids. They live with her most of the time and their stepdad, Bob. Every other weekend, they spend time with their dad, John. Betty has primary custody of her 2, and on occasion, Bob and Susie have all 5. Wow. You understand what I mean by complexity? And you know, here's the really funny thing that we do in ministry. We kind of do this arbitrary thing where we draw a little circle around Bob and Susie, and we go, there's the people we're going to talk to in marriage ministry. That's who we're going to speak to about parenting, when this is their life. You see, we got to get on board with this. We got to understand this complexity. And so I got good news for you. Your ministry structure can begin to just evolve a little bit. You don't have to create a whole new thing. Just add something to it, all right? So you do first marriage ministry, you do premarital ministry. Well, now we're going to need to think a little bit about having blended family ministry. And the same thing's true with your children's ministry. Just talk about the step families in the Bible. There's a lot of them. Was Jesus a stepchild? I'll let you chew on that a little bit. There's all kinds of things. Yeah, some of you are finally getting there. You may be feeling overwhelmed with this. You may be feeling like, wow, where do we start? I get it. It's really difficult. If you're not living in a step family, you may not fully understand the complexity. I don't live in a step family either, but you can learn some things that will make a difference. You can just engage people in a conversation and a dialogue. Get educated yourself, and then you'll begin to just find one little creative change that you can begin to do differently. That's all I ask you to do, is just begin to start thinking about it, all right? Hey, we do this summit in a couple of months. If you can't make it this year, we'd love to have you in a future year. Understanding step families, non-traditional families, it's the new traditional. We need to figure this out. God bless. Thanks.